Yeah. What's going on, Tim?
Dude, what's up, man? I'm feeling good. You know what? Feds made my day. You heard the news, right?
Yes, a quarter point is what they raised it. Tell
Right.
me why it's great news, Tim.
So they did some really important things. We don't typically look at how much they raised it. We're really looking about the message behind the picture. Okay.
Okay.
And so I'm going to I'm going to conceptualize it, right? Yes, they raised it a quarter point, but remember, just 2 weeks ago, they're going to raise it a half a point. So that's number one. Bing, right? But what I love what they did was they deleted the reference to ongoing increases. They basically came back and said, hey, listen, some additional policy firming may be appropriate, but they basically have backed off from their focused inflation, we don't care model. Brian, that's huge. That says that they recognize the challenges and the deficiencies they recognize the economy starting to falter. They recognize the recession, but more importantly, they recognize the exposure to our financial banking system. And I tell you that because they came out and said, hey, our banking system is sound and resilient. Now, when someone says that, what's that say to you?
There's a reason why they feel the need to say it.
Exactly. And I think that's what they
came on here saying I didn't cheat on my wife.
And then all of a sudden, you know what happened? Yeah, cheated on your wife. Right? I mean, think about it. So I think that what we're likely to see is tighter credit, by the banks. The banks are going to tighten up their credit requirements. They're going to really cut down on the commercial loans. You're going to see some higher commercial costs. You're going to see some declining manufacturing and industrial output. That spells the same impact that the feds were trying to accommodate by raising rates. They're now in turn by having to tighten down on the banking side. So that's huge. Now, they did say they're going to continue to reduce their balance sheet. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? And they're recognizing that, jobs are still gaining pace. But I love that the vote was unanimous. I love that they've taken away their focus from being hyperinflation to being primarily based on a policy as need be basis, right? I love their focus on the banks because it says, yes, we recognize where the banks are going. And more importantly, I love the response in the point that they're saying, hey, you know what? We think things are starting to change and we're going to go ahead and respond accordingly. Brian, that's huge. Before, they didn't care. Today, they're focused.
Well, so Tim, I play devil's advocate a little bit.
We call you El Diablo. Is that what we call you? Exactly.
So the only Brooke was telling me about this book, Only the Paranoid Survive. So let's just say we're paranoid a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What if they're backing off of all of this because of a potential banking crisis?
Dude, you know what happened last time? They bailed out the banks. What was the biggest mistake that the federal government made in 2007 and 8? Do you remember?
Well, I mean,
they bailed out the banks.
Okay.
And here's why I tell you that.
If they hadn't bailed out the banks, everybody runs the banks. You have a banking collapse.
It would, and you know what? It would have been 6 months and over. Instead, it was like 16 years, and we're still suffering the consequences. Okay, that's my point. You know what? Here's the thing. Is it worse to be punished by being spanked and just be done with it? Or do you want your mom and dad to hang it over your head for the next 20 years? I mean, think about it. Seriously.
All right, we're talking about some vague, let's be specific. All right. So let's talk about, go ahead.
How many banks were bailed out and today are making unreasonable profits? And here's what bothers the shit out of me. Ready? They did all this. They kicked it down. And here's what really blew my mind. You ready? Those banks are profitable today and are not paying freaking taxes and not reimbursed the United States. And now we're trillions of dollars in debt. And my kids, your kids, our grandchildren, we're going to be paying this back. Stop the bailout. Just say, you know what? Shareholders, your bank, your business made a bad investment. You lost your investment. Senior management, you made bad decisions. You sold your stock. You're going to liquidate it. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree with you.
And so the banks fail. Okay, here's the thing. Not all the banks will fail. The banks fail because they were invested in crypto exchanges and crypto industrial output. So here's the deal. You ready?
That wasn't the whole story, Tim. I mean, ultimately they failed because they had a run on the bank.
They did, but the run on the bank was because their loans went bad. And the loans that went bad were based on some misguided principles.
Okay.
And so I think you would acknowledge that. And if with that being the case, the banks are going to now tighten up. We're not going to see the run. Okay. The federal government has already said we're taking care of the share or people in their savings and loans. So people aren't going to withdraw $1 billion anymore because the government already said your deposits are protected. Brian, don't worry about your $1 million you have in that bank. You're going to get it back, right? And so government said, don't take out your money. Government said, hey, we're going to rectify the banking situation. The government said, look, the shareholders and senior management are going to have to be responsible for their actions, and they're going to have to take the consequences. They reap the bennies. They're driving around the private jets. Now they got to pay. They got to go. What's it called when you custom in the airplanes? What do you call it when you're not commercial? No, not commercial. What's the cargo?
Riding with poor people.
Okay, all right, which is not what I do. I'm a cheap.
That's where I ride. I ride on Southwest Airlines.
I love
but it's not. It's awesome. I mean, even Southwest. The last trip I took was $700 to Arizona. I mean, it's not free.
Dude,
there's no more $99. Well, after they screwed up their whole airline, now they're back to the $99 fares for a minute. Get them while they're good.
Yeah, book the ticket now, man. Back to Arizona, dude.
All right, so let's talk. Let's bring it around. You know, you and I are in real estate. How does this affect real estate? And let me start with my number one question. This is what I'm thinking the whole time.
Sure.
Okay, so whatever the Fed rate, we started last year, and the Fed rate was what, 0 Z, right? Or like
now it's 5.
5. Okay, so 5 is the Fed rate, and banks are lending money to homeowners at an average of.
So here's the key. Let's step back.
Yeah.
Fed loans money overnight.
Right.
They're not lending money
during the day, only nighttime.
Right. So the 10-year Treasury right now is at 3.5. 10-year Treasury is an indicator where rates are going to go, Brian. That's a long-term focus. The 2-year Treasury is at 4%. Okay, just kind of take it as it is. If that being the case, what that tells us is short term, we expect to have a recession. Rates will go up, but long term, the long term 30-year vision is lower interest rates. So what's that say?
To break this down for regular people for a minute.
Sure.
Like I've lost you. So you're saying, you said Fed loans money overnight, then you said 10-year Treasury, 2-year Treasury.
Right. So the Fed
is the interest rate on a 30-year mortgage based on?
So, great question. So the Fed's.
It is a great question. Thank you.
The Fed loan money overnight to the banks to supplement their capital requirements. That's number one. So we always think that they're really the market. They're not the interest rates, but they sell the 2-year and 10-year Treasuries to fund the federal debt, which, by the way, is enormous. You know that, not enormous, enormous, right?
Professor Murphy, I have a question.
Yes.
I still don't understand. You're saying the Fed has a rate of 5%, and then the 2 and the 10-year Treasury. What is the mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage based on?
So it's based on really 3 principles. What a 30-year mortgage security is going to sell in the open market, and it's going to be purchased by typically insurance companies. Investments that are longer term. And longer term, we use the 10-year Treasury as an indicator of what people are thinking about long term. Long term, they're saying, hey, you know what? Rates are not going to be at 5%. They're going to be at 3.5%. They're going to be significantly lower. So I think we're going to see rates in the mid 4s in about 12 months. That's my position.
Okay. So the 10-year Treasury is 3%, and then historically, what has it been? Because I know what the Fed rate was, but what was the 10-year?
The 10-year Treasury just a few years ago was 2% or less,
and now it's only
3.5. No, 3.5.
But rates went from 3 to 7; they went up 4%. So I'm just trying to figure out where you draw the correlation.
When it was 7, the 10-year Treasury was hitting 4. Okay.
Okay, and now it's down to
3.5.
Okay.
So it's moving in the right direction. And there's a lot of shortage because nobody was buying mortgage-backed securities. Now, why don't people buy mortgage-backed securities as investments? Because they're afraid people are going to get into houses at 6.5 and 7 and refinance in a very short period of time. Okay. So that Treasury, that 30-year mortgage security is not worth that much money. That's why the rates were so high.
Okay.
So
what do you think needs to happen in order for us to see I feel like we need to see a 6% rate to kind of I feel like the the train is stuck and there's whatever you want analogy you want to use. Like I feel like the delta. So the number that I heard the other day, I can't remember if it was 97 or 99%
Right.
of Americans have a mortgage at 4% or less.
Isn't that wild, man?
Yeah. So the delta between, let's just say 3.5 and 7 is too high for most people to consider a normal move, because the cost of housing has also gone up 50% in the past 3 to 4 years.
It needs to get to 5 or less.
5. You think 5 is the number?
5's the number. Yeah.
5 or less. 5.
5 or less. Yeah. And here's the thing, because the federal government is going to have a need to reduce interest rates. Ready? Number one, keep the banks solvent, my opinion. Number two.
So they just raised them 9 times in a row, including today. You're saying they're going to reduce rates.
They had to raise it a quarter. And the reason why they had to raise it a quarter was because if they had raised it by 0, that would have been like, oh, geez, come on, just crash it. Right. I mean, that would have been a bad sign. And if they had raised it in half, it would have said, hey, we don't care. So by raising it a quarter and putting out their Fed speech,
this is like Goldilocks, you know what I mean? Like
this is
too hot or too cold. This is like
it's right, exactly right. And
because I try to help take Professor Murphy and put us in layman's terms so we can all understand. So Tim said that the Fed came out with the Goldilocks.
God, that was quarter was perfect.
What was that? The mama bear had the right size, right?
No, the baby bear.
I thought the baby bears was too cold. Okay. So
Tim
said the Fed raised the rate baby bear amount. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Just a little bear, right? Come on, think about it, man.
All right, so rates are not 5, and the real estate market is down what percent, Tim?
So here's the key. Ready? So I don't think you're going to hate me to tell you this. Well, I don't think values are going to drop, except for the higher end.
I've seen them not drop, so I don't disagree.
You agree with me on that one? Number one, right? Number two, I think we're going to see unfortunately a very a 25% farther shrinking of the marketplace only because of
25% less sales from today. Which is down 40%. You're saying like it'll end up coming down to like 65%. It'll be down 65% over last year, which was already way down.
It's gonna be down. Yeah. Okay. Let's take it in perspective. I'm sorry. So 60% from 2021.
21. Okay.
Yeah. 2 years. Okay. Now why? Why is sales going to be down, Brian? What's the number one reason?
I already said the reason why is because interest rates are still too high.
No, and lack of
inventory, because interest rates are too high. I mean, why is there a lack of inventory?
Exactly. Well, yes. So I agree. So there's a lack of affordable housing, and there's a lack of affordable housing because people are locked into their interest rates of 2.5% to 3%. They have the inability to move up or don't want to move up given the impact of buying up and cost of interest. So the Feds are going to have to reduce the rates first to shore up the banks. The Feds are going to have to reduce the rates, to re-stimulate the economy. We will see that because we will see a continuous decline in real estate overall in the marketplace, especially the West Coast. West Coast is blowing up right now. I mean, houses that were $2.5 million in San Francisco, now they're selling for 1.9. I mean, okay, well, still that's kind of ridiculous. But my point of the matter is, right, we're seeing that decline. So we see a recession. We see a housing industry that tanks. We see the banks struggling. Dude, it's like the trifecta. You know what I'm talking about? Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah. So you're thinking that they're going to start lowering rates and then that interest rates on 30-year fixed mortgages will come down, but not anytime soon.
I think it's going to be, I think 9 to 12 months. But there's one other little piece of information which you need to know. What happens in 24?
There's going to be a little mini boom.
And a presidential election. And so what do politicians want to do? The world is
I feel like Donald Trump's getting ready to get elected.
Now
Joe Biden is getting ready to go. I don't know what, but it's not looking good, man. I'm telling you, that situation is not a hopeful outcome here.
I think we're going to see a dramatic change in the political atmosphere.
It doesn't look like there's hope on the horizon.
I think there is, because Republicans are seen as economic stimulators, and so
who's going to do that? Donald Trump, who's getting ready to get literally arrested. They're going to perp walk Donald Trump, who's the leading Republican candidate.
I think actually DeSantis. I like DeSantis for president, and then is it Haley Berry? Who is it?
No,
Haley Berry.
She was the UN representative under Donald Trump.
And then who do we want to be the White House Speaker? Oh, what's her name?
I mean, the question is who runs on the Democrat side, though? Is Joe Biden stay in the race? We've never got into politics on here, Tim, but it's like we're not even discussing any
we should be honest
here. This is just reality.
So reality is that, you know what, you're going to have a recession. Reality is the banks have to be shored up. Reality is the housing market is tanking, and there's a severe lack of affordable housing. The only way to stimulate that is to reduce interest rates. And I think rates will be reduced because of the presidential election. And with all honesty, we couldn't have a better situation unfolding in the next 6 months. But Brian, what's that mean? It means we need to hang on, right? It means you got to have these. You know what these are, right? Exactly, dude. Come on, we hang on tight, man. It's going to be a race. I can't wait for our fall, our third quarter, trivia call. You know what I'm talking about? And Brian, let's go ahead and replay what we said in the spring and in the.
I know what we said last June. We said rates could hit 10%, and everybody thought we were crazy. They got up to 7.5. It looks like they're going to come down off 7.5. Do you think in the next 30 days rates are going up or down?
I think honestly rates are going to start sliding down.
Okay.
I think because of supply and demand of interest rates, mortgages, I think the overall the message is going to be that the crisis is over from an inflationary standpoint, and I see long-term rates are going to start moving backwards.
So you think inflation? Because I don't watch the little ticker on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, inflation was outblown is what it was. Inflation is still going to be up, but here's the problem. You ready? We don't care if we don't.
But inflation is normal, right? Like normal inflation is like 2 to 3 to 5% or something.
Well, that you typically want inflation of 2 or 3% if you can help it. But here's the problem. Right now, what's better, to have inflation of 2 and 3% and nobody employed, or have inflation being 4 to 5% and people working, people need to pay for their eggs, pay for their milk, pay for their bread, right? Pay for the toilet paper. I mean, that's the 4 basics right there. Milk, eggs, right? Toilet paper, dude.
So you don't see any financial crisis looming?
I do. I do see a financial crisis looming. I see a recession, and I think the recession is going to be rough. But I think at the end of the horizon, Brian, we finally look. It's like you were in a tunnel, right? And you're looking up, and the cover's never been taken off, and all of a sudden, dude, the cover is off. And I'm starting to do this. I got one hand on one rung, got another hand on another. I can see the light, dude. I'm serious. It's going to be a long haul.
What's going to be the cause of the financial crisis? Unemployment, inflation, banking crisis? Like, what are you referring to when you say crisis?
I think overall what's going to happen is that we're going to get into a very rough recessionary people, and people are being laid off their jobs. Profitability is down tremendously. The banks are not lending money so you can now buy your factories and build your components and do what you need to do to get out there and hustle. The Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, was one of the largest banks to help entrepreneur businesses start off. Brian, we just lost a large chunk of entrepreneurial financing. If that financing goes away, what's going to happen? A lot of new businesses will not be created. A lot of them are going to be put on hold. A lot of businesses that were going to expand are going to retract, right?
Yeah.
And then we haven't even talked about China, North Korea, the Ukraine, Russia, right? I mean, dude, this is not just, this little, sector of U.S. Dude, we are worldwide, right? And so worldwide, we're going to see some rough times, dude. But we already start to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And you're saying the light comes in 2024. So just hang on until 2024. Now, January 24 or third quarter 24, like at the election or before the election?
Quarter of 24.
Okay. So we got to get through 12 months.
Dude, it's like nothing. It's like, you know what? Let's go ahead and start taking a break. That's all we need to do. We're okay. We're going to make it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not that bad. Yes, it's going to be a little rough. Yes, you better buy some antacids. I mean, it is what it is, right? But you know what? Yeah. Sometimes we get a little bit better about things too, with that being the case.
Yeah, my preferred one's Nexiums, Tim. You need that's the high horsepower stuff right there.
Yeah, I'm not like I'm just a young small town country boy trying to make a living, doing the best I can. Yes.
Well, Tim, you definitely sound like you know what you're talking about. I didn't follow everything you said, but I think it all does make sense, and you've been right about just about everything you've said so far in the past.
You've never said that, man. I'm impressed. Although I do think we should have bought the lighthouse. I still go back to that one thing,
I've been following that whole story, Tim. So the story is that the guy bought it, owns a
restoration company. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's like, that's what his job is to like blast rust off of giant metal things.
No, I think it's cool. Hopefully you and I one day will be able to rent it out for a day and just go fishing off the island.
No, unfortunately, but he's going to try to turn it into some sort of a nature center where you can go learn about the environment, which is needed because the crab population in the state of Maryland is the lowest in recorded history.
Oh,
the striper population is near the lowest in recorded history. They're blaming it on invasive catfish.
I saw that catfish and the what's the other one that walks on land?
Snakeheads. Yeah, the snakeheads aren't causing that population. They're fighting they're putting some initiatives together to fight the invasive fish species, but they're saying but it's not really, what the number one factor is, honestly, is pollution. They're just dumping pollutants into the water like at a record pace. And it is what it is. I can't get too involved in
you live
politics because I don't. Yeah, I do, but I don't. I feel like we're peasants and we can only vote every 4 years or 2 years, and we do have a voice. But I don't want to get my life caught up in realities that I can't change. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make the best of what you got.
Brian Mayer for congressman.
Yeah,
I like
that'll never happen.
Barefoot, grass.
Tim Murphy for mayor, though. I think that's probably what we're going to see of La Plata, because you all have a mayor, right? So that will happen. Like when you retire and you decide you don't want to stop doing so many loans, you want to get more involved in the community, we can definitely get that going. So
governor, come on, governor. I like that sound.
That's too much, man. It's too much. That's too political. It's too much.
Oh, geez. All right. Yeah. Dude, I think good call, man. I'm serious.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Tim. I think it was great information today, man. I appreciate you, man.
Talk to you soon, sir. Have a good one. All right.